Hello, Elise Hebert here, and I am going to start talking about two very important topics in the realm of social development. And the first topic we're going to talk about is Erikson's psychosocial development and how he formed those and what stages he formed those in, and how that kind of played off of how Freud had done his work. And then also, we're going to kind of go over some different categories of social emotional development. And each one of those is just a way of studying the way in which we as humans develop, particularly in the earlier stages in social emotional development. But then in Erikson's psychosocial development, it's going to focus on stages from when we were a child, and he goes all the way up until the later stages in life, we shall say. So let's dive in. Here's an overview of topics. We're going to talk about defining Erikson's psychosocial development, just what it means as a term. We're then going to go through the stages, actually the 8 stages of his development, starting from birth and then going up to ages 65 plus. And then also we're going to start defining social emotional development. And this is going to be interactions and relationship with our peers and adults, the identity of self in relation to others, and recognition of one's own ability to do things. Also, we're going to talk about empathy, emotion regulation, impulse control, and our understanding of social situations around us. Here we go, defining Erikson's psychosocial development. So Erikson believed that personality in humans develops in a series of stages well into adulthood. And these stages are different than Freud's work in that he believed that they didn't just start in childhood, that they kept going after adolescence. And that's kind of how he separated himself from there. Now, some people believe that he didn't go quite far enough, and certainly one person could only do so many things, right? And he provided a good bit of groundwork for it. And here we are into the first stage. Oh, it's a baby. And so we're going to talk about how as the child encounters crises in their lives, they're going to push them towards having a positive outcome or a negative outcome. And this is going to be trust versus mistrust. And so you can have the first year is the infant learning who it can trust as it has its needs being met. Are its needs being met, then it can start trusting the caregiver. If the needs are not met, and these are like basic needs that a baby needs, like getting your diaper changed, crying when there's pain, crying when there's hunger, that creating a safe environment. Those are the kinds of trust and mistrust. And so if the trust is there, we have an output of a virtue, and that virtue in this first stage is hope. And if that trust is not there, if mistrust is there instead, we're going to have fear or suspicion, perhaps, kind of implanted into the social development of the child. So then we go to the second phase, which is going to be in 2-year-olds. And so they kind of graduate out of the first stage with those virtues. And then if there is, so a 2-year-old is learning how to balance its surroundings, right? So so the child is urged to get dressed on their own. Like a 2-year-old is, it can be encouraged to do that, but not with too much independence. So there's a little bit of independence done, but really there has to be a good, safe environment to be had in that one. And that's that feeling of if the crisis is met with a good response, it's you get independence, or you have a good understanding of your own will, autonomy, and then the negative outcome, if it is not held and reciprocated by the caregivers, the child will feel shame. So that's pretty sad. So number three would be initiative versus guilt. And so this takes place in ages 3 years to 5 years old. And the crisis that the child goes through is learning to assert themselves. Have you ever heard of the phrase, a three-nager? It's because 3-year-olds like to assert themselves just like a teenager would. So no surprise there. The virtue that emerges out of this is the sense of independence, and the negative outcome is just feelings of inadequacy. And so that's not good for anyone, not even a 3-year-old. Um, so the next stage is from ages 6 to 12. It's kind of a big range. And so these are nice, well implanted school age kids from first grade to sixth grade. And this is a big time where they start to get a sense of pride about the work that they're doing, and how it reacts to their peers and their accomplishments. And so if they can feel, a sense of pride as a virtue that comes out of there, that's a really good thing. But if it's their industriousness is not met appropriately, they're going to develop an inferiority. It's going to have a negative effect on their social development. Stages 5 and 6. And so these are the preteen years. Let's all take a moment to gasp. Oh. Young preteens. Young preteens and teenagers, we're going to go through this identity solidification. Why am I here? What is my purpose? How do I fit? And so all the stages before this where it's been set up, rules, having good, consistent, wise rules for children is so important, because by this stage they're already trying to answer that question, why am I here? And so, if they are solid in this and they don't confuse their role at this time, they are going to gain competence and pride. And no, sorry, that was the other one. They're going to gain fidelity. Okay, yeah. So they're going to understand and be true to themselves. They're going to stay true to themselves and have a good solid role, like, no, I am here for this particular reason, and if not, they're going to rebel. And I think, hey, that's pretty true to hey, if it was true when Erikson wrote this, then it is still true. And so then we go to the next stage, which is, okay, so we've got 18 years to 40. So we are entering into adulthood now. And let me scroll over here. There we go. No. Oops, sorry about that. Happy scrolling. Okay, so this is from this age group is from 40 years to 65 years. And during this time, we've got established careers. Oh, wait a minute. Where did it go? Oops. There it is. Sorry. This is my 18 years to 40-year-olds right here, stage 6. And this is when they start to focus on having those strong personal relationships, where people start to get married. They want to have families. They want to develop these lifelong familial relationships, very strong. That are going to be there, and they're going to ride the waves of starting a family and all those kinds of things, and job switches and all that kind of thing. So if you come out of there in a healthy relationship, you've gained the virtue of love, and if not, you've gained isolation and unhappiness. And I think you see that a lot in people who get divorced in those years, just real unhappiness, as those relationships fall apart, and it's quite sad. So now we can go to stage 7, which is the age ranges from 40 to 65. In this stage, the individuals build their lives and obtain a feeling that they are contributing to the world, and that what they've done for the last 20 years, 40 years made a difference. is making a difference in the world, and there's nothing wrong with that. I think we all want to make sure that we've been doing things that benefit the world. And so if they achieve this, the virtue that comes out of that is care. And if they do not, they become, stagnant or unproductive. I'd say, bitter. And that's kind of just this developmental thing. Some people just become, if you've got one bad virtue after another in your life, unless you've got some kind of life altering change, like meeting Jesus and finding satisfaction there, this is going to be a big deterrent. And so then that leads us to the next age group of 65-year-olds and beyond. Individuals from this group experience tend to look back on their lives, and you see the person in the old folks home, or you think of my grandma who's sitting there and just thinking, okay, this was it. This was not a very, good way to end it right now. And so a good virtue that comes out of this, they have, this integrity versus despair. To have integrity is to have honor in your life, to do the honorable thing. Did you do what was right? And then when you didn't, you look on despair in your life, and so then the negative outcome of that would be dissatisfaction. So you look back on your life and you thought, no, that just wasn't good. That was not a good life. And then you really get that bitterness, that can start here in the 40 to 65-year-olds and then come over here and just be exacerbated. So those are kind of Erikson's ways of looking at development all the way through. And it's interesting. I like his idea that we develop. We are constantly developing. What a beautiful way to acknowledge the human mind and experience and wisdom that God's given us. And moving on, we are going to go look at, so Erikson's theory provides groundwork of how we can expect to socially develop. Yeah, it's just like I said. And so now what we're going to look at social emotional development. Oh, look how pretty it is. This theory analyzes the intra and interpersonal processes of an individual's social development. Very good to be able to understand your own emotions and the emotions of others. I would totally agree. So let's go. Yeah. How do we advance? There it is. And so first, we need to talk about the identity of self in relationship to others. So a child will first become aware of themselves as they move from being able to identify, I have two arms. The songs, head, shoulders, knees and toes, knees and toes. Yeah, that's to make sure that they know that they are there, that this is their body, these are their arms, these are their hands. And then you think, oh, okay, I've got a body. Hey, look, you've got a body too. You think of babies as they're crawling across the floor and they touch another one, they go, oh, you have a head. Right. So recognition of ability is kind of that self-efficacy, that I can do it. The child realizes they can do things independently. They can become aware that they are equipped and competent and able to do certain things, and this is so important for them to understand, certainly as children, and then to transfer that as adults. I mean, that's easy to kind of transfer that thought. And moving on, we've got the interaction with peers and relationship with peers. And so through interactions with peers and other individuals, we can learn to problem solve and cooperate and take turns and begin to understand this concept of empathy. So when it's like kind of like a push and pull of what is acceptable. What is acceptable? And then we have relationship with peers, and these relationships develop because of that interaction. And so at that point, that's when children start to really have preferences of who they like to be with. And I personally think, is that just,